Welcome to the Nate KG podcast, where I talk with jump ropers of all skill levels with different styles, geographical locations, and fitness goals to answer the simple but all-encompassing question, what is jump rope to you? In this episode, I talk with Mike Fry at Let's Jump LA on Instagram. Mike is not only a world champion jump roper, but he is also a professional jump rope coach, a consistent driving force in our jump rope community, and one of my close friends. Mike and I have spent many hours discussing all things jump rope, and we were both extremely happy to finally put a piece of our conversation on tape and out into the world. So we cover a lot of topics, including how to find inspiration for jump rope skills, what it was like to practice his team routine with the heartbeats, which happens to be my favorite team routine ever, avoiding negative self-talk with clear goal setting, and a huge list of throwback videos, people, history, all sorts of jump rope goodness. Seriously though, Mike is a legend. I won't belabor the point here because it's the first thing we talk about, but it's really important to know that in addition to being a kind, humble dude, Mike has an extraordinary wealth of jump rope knowledge. And as usual, the show notes can be found over at natekg.com. So with that being said, let's get into this wide-ranging discussion with Mike Fry. Mike Fry, what is going on, man? How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How's it going, man?
I'm great. We were already talking just a little bit before this podcast. We had to quickly turn it on because we were starting to lose good stuff. Before we start, though, I want to make it I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here, make it very clear for everyone who's listening. You are one of the drivers of why this podcast even exists, because we were talking at least 3 months ago, probably before then, about doing a podcast, about doing all this stuff. And we go back and forth all the time on jump rope stuff. And I know you're a super humble guy, but you're also a legend. I know you have a lot of people that follow you and stuff, but they don't quite understand yet. You are straight up OG jump rope legend, 100%.
Dude, thank you. That means a lot. I don't know that I agree, but I appreciate the vote of confidence.
But it's true. It's 100% true. Because first thing I want to get into, of the many things we have to talk about, the Mick. You invented the Mick, the staple, one of the staples of jump rope. You were the first person to create it and coin it, and boom, there it is.
Yeah. Yep.
How did that come into existence?
So yeah, it's So it was 2004. Summer camps used to be a huge thing in jump rope, and there's still summer camps that are going on. But back when it was sort of just USA jump rope in the U.S., we would have Southern camp. There would be Northern camp. There would be all these camps all over, and mostly during the summer. And so it was always a big deal. And 2004 was the very first year that I got asked to go to Southern camp. It was in Huntsville, Texas, I think.
Were you staff?
Yeah, I was staffing that year. I had staffed a couple years prior at other camps. I grew up in Ohio, I was on the Heartbeats, and a lot of those camps were in Indiana. I think a couple were in Ohio. So I'd done those, but this was the first time I'd gotten asked to go to Southern camp, and I was really psyched and just really excited to go out there and meet all these people. I'd met Nick and Jeff Moss and Tyler Perez and all these people, but had never really gotten to spend a ton of time with them, just hanging out and coming up with new stuff. So I think probably the first day, everyone's around. We've got stuff to do. People are we've got orientation to go through and a staff show to be working on. But the best thing is always just kind of the downtime, because it's never really downtime. It's always all right, get your rope. We're going to see what we can come up with. And so we were all just kind of messing around, and the basic movement of the Mick, that spinning motion, that's kind of been around. That's something I think originally came from rhythmic gymnastics, but the idea of the release point and the catch came originally from the first trick actually being the Mick TJ. So before there was a Mick, it was actually just the Mick TJ. And
hold on a second. You're telling me you did a Mick into a TJ first before a regular Mick?
Yeah.
Dude, that's ridiculous. That's why you're a legend. Oh my gosh.
Well, we were kind of messing around with it because I had seen people doing, seeing people doing the basic motion of it. I know I'd seen Nick kind of playing around with it. Tyler Perez had it down. Jeff was doing some stuff with it. So we're all just kind of playing around and just trying to come up with stuff. So I was like, well, what if, and honestly, this is always how like jump rope tricks and new ideas come about. It's always like, well, what if I, do this? What if I add a frog to this? What if I add another rotation? What if I do it backwards? And so we were kind of just talking. We were like, well, what if we add a TJ to this? So, so I tried the original Mick TJ came from, it was a 360. And then as you're backwards, you put one hand behind your back, and that would become the hand that goes on top.
Mm-hmm.
So usually the Mick, you're facing forward the entire time. For the Mick TJ, you start backwards, put your back arm hand on top of the spinning hand, you release, and then I just put it into a TJ. So I was the first person to get the Mick TJ, and then very shortly after, probably within a minute or so, Nick got the first Mick AS, Jeff Moss did the first Mick Jami, Tyler Perez did the first Mick CL, and it was pretty wild. We were just messing around with it.
That is amazing.
It was a good time. And then actually later in that camp, maybe a couple of days later, somebody was like, okay, what if you do like a BC with it? So a BC is a 360 EK. So it's like a full twist. You do a triple under with it.
Hold on a second. Let's slow down a little bit.
Sorry, we're jumping way ahead.
Yeah. So I'm not sure I'm going to be able to link up all of these skills in the show notes, but just quick point, people should follow you because you do these skills a lot on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So So just a heads up, follow Mike as he'll be able to explain it more there. But yeah, explain the BC and the EK a little bit.
Okay, so an EK is a 360 triple under. So you start facing forward, you turn around. The first rotation of the triple is a side swing 180, and then the second rotation is a backwards jump. The third rotation, you complete the turn and you jump forward. So it's a 360 triple.
Mm-hmm.
A BC is basically an EK, but on the backwards jump on that second rotation, you're going to sort of sneak your arm underneath the leg. So you usually, if you turn right, you'll go left arm under left leg. Turn left, you'll go right arm under right leg. So that's.
Are you walking through it right now? Just curious.
I'm going through the motions. I'm sitting down, but I'm very much moving through.
I had a feeling.
Yeah. And so somebody, I don't even think this was my idea. I can't remember who it was, but somebody was like, well, could you do a Mick with a BC? So it'd be a quad. So you do the BC, and as you hook your arm underneath your leg, you release the rope, you finish the turn, and you catch it. And so I got that at some point during the camp, maybe day 3 or 4. But that's called the BC McTwister.
BC McTwister, yes.
Yeah. But that's a fun one. I've honestly only done it one time in my life, and it was the one time at Southern Camp. I've never been able to do it again.
Really?
But I know I've seen Dylan do it. Who else? Somebody else got it pretty recently. What is his name? Iron Cryos.
Alex, right?
Alex, yeah.
Alex
Costa, right? Alex Costa.
Yep.
He's ridiculous in his own right. I just saw him get that trick. So yeah, it's always really cool, like to be a part of creating a trick and then seeing people do it, still doing it 5 or 10 or 15 years later.
I'm pretty sure there's a video of you doing that somewhere. Like I can't.
Have it.
You have it?
I will send it to you. Yeah, I'll send it to you. I've never posted it before.
Are you serious?
An exclusive.
Dude.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know. We'll talk about it, but maybe this one makes it exclusively onto the blog in the show notes. I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Down.
Nice. But I'm pretty sure that the other, like, I feel like there's a video of you either in Jump, the documentary, or like something that like Lee posted a long time ago.
Maybe. I know I show up for like a quarter of a second in the Jump documentary. That's my claim to fame. I was so psyched, but yeah, I don't know if I'm actually doing anything of significance in that documentary.
Dude, so question for you about creating tricks. There's a lot of people that create tricks, and I'm going to put that into quotes there. What's the difference between... Actually, that's kind of a leading question. I'm kind of, putting in my own opinion there. Is there a difference between creating these tricks that you're talking about and some of these other people that we see creating tricks in quotes?
I think it depends. I mean, I think, to be able to create something and truly say that you've created it, that sort of comes with knowing what's already been done. So I know very little about, let's say, like, skateboarding. Like, I love it. I love to watch it. I know what an ollie is, but I don't know enough about it to be able to say, like, I created some new trick, because I'm sure there's somebody somewhere, and there's probably a video of it, somebody doing, the thing that I would say is a new one. So you definitely have to, I think, come to it and really have, have like a genuine appreciation for what the art form is, what the sport is, and try to, kind of do your research and figure out, everything that's out there. And one of the things I think is so cool right now is, when we talk about this all the time, we're starting to get a lot of jumpers that we're meeting through social media, especially through Instagram, who are showing like a genuine interest in learning kind of the basics and the fundamentals, and then putting their own spin on different things and coming up with combinations. People like Chris Walker, people like Sonny, people like Diana Pena, people like Bhaskar, all these people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm missing people. JJ Dynamite, all these people, where it's like they really want to understand like what are the building block skills of jump rope. And actually kind of going off of that, I think to really be able to create a new skill, and this is for new jumpers, this is for people who've been jumping a few years, for people who've been jumping their entire lives. I think you always want to go back to the basics and like, number one, have those completely mastered, forwards, backwards, left side, right side, all that stuff. Because a lot of times the coolest, new stuff can come out of something so basic. Like I'll just play around with like an AS for hours. I'll be in the gym or outside or whatever, and just focus on an AS and see what can come of that. And it's something I learned probably my first year. And I know how to do an AS. Like, why would I be spending time on that? I should be working on something new. But I think by revisiting the basics, you can come up with so much new stuff. So that's definitely, I don't know, that's kind of a recommendation, is just always go back to basics.
Dude, that 100% agree with that. Like yeah. You mentioned the heartbeats earlier. We kind of went through that real quick. What is the heartbeats? And can you kind of give us an idea of your history with teams and competition?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm from Ohio. I grew up in a really small town called Richfield, Ohio. And probably in the entire state at the time, there were maybe 4 or 5 teams, maybe a couple more, I'm not sure. And a lot of those since then have died out. But I was lucky enough to happen to go to an elementary school that had a team. And so entire state of Ohio, there's 4 or 5 teams. My elementary school had one of them. So at end of my 3rd grade year, I think I was 9 or 10, they did a performance. I saw this jumper. He doesn't jump anymore. His name's Deshaun Coleman. Some people may remember him from like 97, 98 nationals. I saw him do a backflip with the rope, and I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever done.
Yep.
I need to try it. And so I tried out for the team. It was a one-time deal. You tried out, and if you weren't good enough, you didn't make the cut, you could not try out again. So,
whoa, that's like aggressive.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very aggressive. And I tried out, there were 2 sort of rounds, and I made it through the first round, barely, I think. And then the second round, like just looking around at who was in the gym at the time, honestly, I was like the best out of the worst group of jumpers. So like there were the good jumpers,
okay.
And then there were the horrible jumpers. And I just happened to be like top dog for the horrible jumpers. So I somehow, like, that allowed me to squeeze through, and I made it onto the team. I really was horrible. And I know, like, I get a lot of messages, I'm sure you do too, from people saying like, I'll never be able to learn this stuff. I'll never be able to do all these tricks that we see, you competitors and all you jumpers doing. And I'm like, listen, when I started, I could not do anything. I could not do a cross. I could not do a double under. Like, you have to start at square one. You got to start somewhere and just build from there. So
I kind of want to jump in here real quick as we keep going, because so when I started jumping too on my first team, everyone on my team, well, basically everyone on my team got a push-up pull-through before me. A couple guys got a double under frog before me. Almost everyone got a triple under before me.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone felt more comfortable with releases than I did.
Yeah.
And it's just funny because like that lasted for like a year.
Yeah.
And then things changed because of like what you're saying. Like it sounds like you put in the work, So
yeah.
I'd like to just tag along with that idea of like, yeah, like if you want it and you work for it and you understand the principles, you'll get there.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's, I hope I don't butcher this quote, but there's a quote I really like. It's something like, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Yep. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that quote because I know for sure a lot of the jumpers that were on the team, at the same time as me, and even jumpers that came on a year and 2 and 3 years after me, were so much better at the beginning. And a lot of them, I don't know whether it was they lost interest or like they succeeded too much too soon. Like we had first year jumpers that were going out and making it to stage. And that was not the reality for me for a long time.
Making it to stage?
So making it to stage, nationals is it's still a big deal. It was always a big deal. And to be able to make it to stage means you qualify at a regional competition first, a regional jump rope competition. So for Ohio, that was all the Ohio teams, Indiana teams, Michigan teams. All those teams would come together for one day, compete, all these different jump rope events, and then if you made it, you'd go to nationals. Nationals, you're competing against all the best jumpers who qualified at a regional competition. You're competing against them for the chance to show that you're one of the best in the nation, and then compete for a grand national championship. So if you do well enough in an event or two at the prelims at nationals, then you'd make it onto the grands, and that was always at the Disney Concert Hall. It was an amazing thing. You'd be up on stage. ESPN used to cover the event, so it's a big deal. And to make it onto stage your first year is like, I just noticed it was kind of a trend, at least.
They made it their first year. That's impressive, dude.
His name was Matt. Yeah, we had a jumper, Matt, and he was so good. And like, man, he's a jumper. Like, he's somebody who would have been like just one of the best, but I don't know if it was that he succeeded too early and then just kind of lost interest. But I've noticed that with other jumpers too, that for whatever reason, they're just so good so early. They make it to stage, or they're, winning a lot of stuff, and then it's like, well, I've already done it. So I feel like the jumpers that have really had to work for it, and just year after year of just like failing, just not not reaching the goal that you set for yourself. You go back, you work even harder. So
yeah, you don't hear from those people until you do.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're on Heartbeats. You just made it barely through the tryouts.
Mm-hmm.
Then what?
So yeah, made it onto the team, and just had a lot of fun. Like I was, like I said, like I was not very good, but it left so much room for improvement. So I spent so much time on the basics. I spent, a ton of time just watching and like idolizing the older jumpers. By the time I joined the team, there were like 5 years worth of jumpers ahead of me. So I think the Heartbeats were founded in 92, and then I joined in 96 or 7. So the older jumpers were just like legends. They were these like untouchable people that were doing, triple unders and back tucks and TJs and all this stuff that I wanted to be able to do. So just watching them, trying to learn as much as I could. They were great, coaches and mentors. So yeah, I just worked. I worked as hard as I could. I practiced every single day that summer. What I would do is I would train speed. I love TV. I watch TV a lot, but what I would do is during the commercial breaks, I would do speed for the entire, length of the commercial break.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like 30 seconds, minute speed. And I did that literally every single day. I actually did it barefoot because I didn't want to keep putting my shoes back on and off, and got like a stress fracture.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so just worked really, really hard at that stuff. And then started to get opportunities. I think my coach recognized that, I was putting in the work, so she wanted to kind of reward that. So, got to start doing stuff like, just really minor stuff like going out for school performances. But that was a big deal to me, to be able to be up in front of people my own age, sometimes even older, and show them something, that they thought was cool and amazing. And then eventually that led to, okay, we want you to go to workshops in Indiana, and now we want you to staff those workshops. And now you're ready for nationals and then worlds. And yeah, so I stuck with it, and I don't know what my life would be like. Like, I don't know what I would be doing. Like, there's other things I'm interested in, but nothing has ever like taken hold of like every, molecule of my being the way the jump rope has. So yeah, I don't know. I'm really lucky.
Yeah, that's so you were training speed in front of the TV during commercial breaks. So the Heartbeats team routine, we've talked about this before. In my view, it is it is my number one favorite team routine I've ever seen ever.
Team show?
The team show. Yep. The one that's on the there's it's like a black floor.
Yeah, from Canada.
Yeah.
96, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the only one second to that is I think the 2010 Summer One Skippers that was choreographed by Lee.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I know which one you're talking about. Was that Jai Ho?
Yep, Jai Ho, exactly.
Yeah, oh my god,
that one gave me chills. But the Heartbeats one also like gave me chills because it's like every person knew their spot, everything that needed to happen. Like they knew exactly what had to go down, how to do it, and it's like the whole team was this one unit machine moving together. And like, what was that training like for that?
First off, man, that means a lot because that routine, I don't know, more than I don't know about more than any routine I've ever done, but that routine is one of like, it conjures up like the most vivid memories for me of the training process and of competition and, beforehand and afterwards and all this stuff. But getting that routine together, um, it was a couple years in the making because we had, I think in 2000, I want to say 2003 or 2004, we decided we were going to do a team show at nationals. We hadn't done team show for a long time. The Heartbeats had kind of had a history of excelling at team shows and being really well choreographed and straight lines and pointed toes, all this stuff to make it look really crisp. And so we decided we wanted to, yeah, exactly. The presentation is a really, really important and I think sometimes overlooked part of it. And so we wanted to kind of carry on the legacy that our mentors on the team, the older jumpers, had started. So we started by watching a lot of their old routines, picked up things like even how they walked out onto the floor, how they set the ropes out, how they stood, the positioning of their hands, literally before the routine even started, like all the things that are kind of subconsciously going into a judge's mind of like, oh, this is really professional, this is really crisp. So all that stuff we would watch. We watched the routine, obviously, and we tried not to do anything too similar, but just more for kind of inspiration. And then we just kind of we went to the drawing board. I mean, we spent just days, hours and hours of days, weekends, everything, just planning stuff out, trying stuff out. Kids would always come to practice with hey, I had this idea. Somebody came to practice one day and said, I literally dreamed of this idea. I don't know.
That's
anyone
awesome.
who has jump rope dream, shout out to you.
Yep.
Yeah. You're spending a lot of time jumping if you're starting to dream about it. But yeah, so we put a lot of time, a lot of energy, just blood, sweat, and literally blood, sweat, and tears. People were bleeding because they were crashing into people, because they didn't have the transitions right yet. Obviously sweating, crying because, certain things are not working as they're supposed to. You're frustrated. You love and hate every single member of the team at the, the same moment.
Yeah. Dude, well, also the crying part is also you would literally be doing that for I would imagine 3 to 4 hours, and if you keep missing the exact same thing for those 4 hours, it drives you literally insane. It's like the anti-flow,
It's so frustrating, and it's so frustrating, and if you're jumping as an individual, that you're in control for better or worse. But it's, as a team, you are counting on every single person to bring their best every single time. And that's hard. That's it's almost unrealistic to expect that every single time you go into the gym to train, that every single person is going to bring their best. I mean, people are dealing with stuff, in school and in their personal lives. But they
might just be tired.
Yeah. They could just be tired. They could be any number of reasons, but it definitely adds to the frustration. But when all of that stuff goes into it and you take it to a competition and it actually works and it pays off and you hit the routine. I think we might have had one or two small misses.
I'm watching it now, so I'll let you know.
Oh boy. Dude, you're bringing back so many memories. I need to go back and watch these routines, but
it's honestly, it's beautiful. One of my favorite parts, well, two favorite parts. One is your whole team gets in two lines and you guys cross through each other. Amazing. Just visually phenomenal. And then there's a section where you guys have a double traveler kind of going to a 2x2 facing each other, and then the jumpers are crossing each other into the other line of traveler. Oh my gosh. Wait, take that back. Favorite part, the traveler with every single person on your team split.
Oh yeah.
And you make it.
Lisa Brown, I think it goes through the center.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure she had that one that year. And in the
this one's absolutely going in the show notes, by the way, just a heads up. It's going to be front and center.
Yeah. And so you actually reminded me of, in terms of a lot of the formation changes and how things would kind of come together and it would look like one thing's happening and then it would sort of morph into something else. A lot of that came from watching, drum corps and drumline, videos, because they do some really, really, inventive and just really creative things. And also just kind of a general thing, to jumpers looking to innovate, in addition to always going back to the basics, I super recommend not watching as many jump rope videos. I recommend going to stuff outside of jump rope.
Oh my gosh.
Go to,
yes.
Dude, and I know we're about to go off on this, but go to watch skateboarding videos, watch capoeira, watch tutting videos, watch
Gymnastics.
marching bands, like
Yes.
Gymnastics.
Everything.
There's so much stuff.
Go
Watch,
learn.
like, juggling videos, like watch circus acts. Like there's so much that you can learn from. I talked to Zach about this, I think semi recently, but you got to kind of go outside of, like, if everybody's just watching the same jump rope videos, and shout out to jump rope videos on Instagram, because that account is amazing. But if that's the only stuff you're watching, then we're all seeing the same ideas and we're all going to generally be sort of moving in the same direction. But if we can start to pull in influences from just all over the place, I think that's where things get really fun and interesting.
Yeah, 100%, dude. That's, yeah, you nailed it. This is, oh yeah, dude.
This is good stuff, dude.
This is good stuff.
We've been having these conversations. I wish we would have recorded the previous ones too, because there's a lot of good stuff. But
so, like, it's just so fun for me to sit down and talk about all this stuff that, like, so while you were doing this, I was sitting in my room downloading all these videos, going frame by frame, analyzing everything that I was watching to learn it. And
dude, that's so cool. Like, when was YouTube? When did that launch?
When did YouTube launch?
Yeah, wasn't it like mid 2000s or early 2000s or something?
Let's see. 2005. No way.
Okay, 2005. Yeah, and so, like, I mean, obviously now we have Instagram, we have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have all these different, social media things. And we talk about this a lot, but, social media, I think a lot of times can get a really bad rap. But, when you look at, like, all the stuff that you were able to learn, watching YouTube videos, and now these jumpers coming up now, they can connect with jumpers from all over the world and see what they're working on. And, it becomes this, like, almost like a hive mind sort of collaborative process where you can piggyback stuff. I saw this kid in Hong Kong do a back tuck inverse TJ. And so, that gave me this idea to add a 180 to it and a release. And it goes from Hong Kong to, to Japan, to Brazil, to Canada. And it just moves all over and it morphs. And it's like this, every trick and every, like, new idea is like this living, breathing thing. And that was not possible before. So, like, shout out to social media. I know, like, it has its good and its bad things, but I think when you do focus on the good things and the collaborative nature and the way that it can connect people, I think there's a lot of great stuff there.
It's funny you say that, because, like, so this has been like I've kept it on the down low for a while, but I actually have a second YouTube channel that I do not have the password for anymore. And I've tried so hard to access it and I can't. So everything is live. So if you find it, it's there. But there's a video from, man, I want to say like 7 years ago, maybe 6 or 8. I'm not sure. I think it's like 7 years ago, that I posted back when I was little Nate in his room watching all these videos. Mm-hmm. And it was called Jump Rope Challenge, and the intention was, because I didn't, like, my jump rope story, like, I didn't go to camp, and I didn't really go to that many workshops. And so I saw YouTube, and I was like, this is like a virtual camp. So I would post, and I would say, like, hey, here's a theme or a challenge for like a week or two. Send in your videos, I'll compile them, and then put it back out for the next challenge. And so for a couple of weeks, maybe like a month or two, I was putting all these videos together, and it's really funny because as you're saying that, I'm like, man, that's what I was doing back when I was like 13. You know what I mean?
Dude, that's amazing. I mean, I know, like, when I think of the kind of the early people who were posting a lot on YouTube, it was like you and Zev Troxler.
Oh yeah.
Zev was posting a lot. Dylan Plummer, he might have come like a couple years after you, but he was pretty active on posting stuff.
I think him and I were pretty close in time.
But yeah, just that, I don't know, that collaborative nature of jump rope in general. I think the sport itself, like, lends itself to that, but with social media, it really just takes off.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that, I really want to preserve. And I think that you and I, as people who are, have seen so much of the sport and are kind of, I don't know, like, it's kind of weird to say, like, watching over it, but I think there is a large group of us, not just you and I, but there's a large group of jumpers watching over the sport and making sure that we retain that, because the more it grows, the more opportunity there is to make money in it. And it's good to constantly be aware of, like, what makes it so good is that collaboration, and keep pushing that forward.
Yeah. And I think, like, especially if you've kind of grown up in the sport and just seen, how things have changed over the years, and just, I don't know, just all the different directions it's gone, and people that have been involved. Like you just, at the end of the day, you want what's best for it. And I mean, I think all of us, everybody at any level of involvement with the sport, whether you're just starting out or you've been doing it your entire life, we want to see it grow. We want to see, like, I would love to see everybody who would potentially be interested. I want to see them jumping. And I think one of the big barriers is just not enough people know about it. Like, when you think about, let's say you're a parent and you've got a kid and you want them to do something, exercise based, you want them to be, social. You're going to think of like sort of the usual suspects of like, basketball, soccer, football, track, stuff like that, dance, and jump rope's not even an option. That wouldn't even cross your mind because you just don't even know that it's out there. And I whatever small role that you and I and everyone else that's part of this community now, whatever role we can have in that, in making it sort of known, making it a little bit more mainstream, I think is great. Yeah.
100%. So one of the things that we do, like we've both done for that, is performances.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Like we've done, well, you've probably done way more than I have, but I remember being like, somewhere between the ages of 10 and 15, going out on stage at different local events or schools and jump rope for heart and doing performances and that kind of thing. What were some of the coolest ones you've done?
That's a tough question. I mean, each one is different. I mean, anytime you get in front of an audience, it's, it's such a unique opportunity because you're like almost given a responsibility to represent, jump rope and represent the sport, in a good light. And so you go up there and you do like a terrible job, and then people go away thinking, okay, that's sort of lame, like they're not very professional, or you just go up there and kill it, and they go away with a really, positive association of what jump rope is and what it can be. So I definitely don't take that lightly. I know that anytime I'm performing, I need to be at my best. So thinking about like best performances, honestly, I'm just stalling. Sorry.
Or like, well, let me jump in then for you, because like I'll buy you some time because I haven't done that many. So for me, it stands out immediately. Because my favorite, so it's a funny story. I'll lead up to it. I'm going to build this up. So this was 2014, and I remember I think I was in San Diego at the time. I think I was in San Diego at the time because I was dating someone here, and so her and I were planning on going to do some kind of like trip to like a national park or something. And I remember, so Kathy Wenninger from Foothill Force sends me, I think, an email. She says, hey, there's this performance that, it'd be cool if you like came and did. We can pay you a little bit, And I was like, normally, yeah, but like, heading out, my girlfriend to go do this like, trip or whatever. And so I figured, okay, like we're done. Like I've done performances before. It's fine, She hits me back with another email like an hour later, and she's like, so I don't know if you know who this is, but it's a concert for Skrillex and Diplo. And I was like, yeah, we'll push the trip.
Yeah.
So long story short, we end up going to Hard Summer 2014 on stage for Skrillex and Diplo in front of like 20,000 people during their set. And the kicker, dude, we started like performing at the beginning, right? And then whoever was managing it, she's like, why don't you guys like come off stage? We'll put you back up in a little bit. Okay, cool. So we're waiting. And she comes back a little bit later, like, wait a little bit longer. Okay. Comes back later. Actually, you're not going to go back up, so feel free to just enjoy the show. And so we're on stage for the entire set of Skrillex and Diplo. Gosh. And the best part of the whole thing, they outfitted me with silver sequin pants.
Oh my God.
A silver sequin bow tie, no shirt, bright yellow shoes.
Dude, anytime a jumper performance involves sequins, it's a good day.
Oh yeah.
So you hit the jackpot.
So that's like my like, happy claim to fame of like jump rope performances is I was at Skrillex Diplo concert, jump roping, It's crazy how far jump rope can actually take you. Like all these things that I never thought would have existed or would have ever happened in my life. Like I got paid to be there. Like that's crazy,
It's still wild to me that like I get paid to jump rope, like, or that anybody could do that. Like this is just something. When we started, it was just something that was fun. And, we wanted to go to competitions and workshops to, hang out with friends and, people we wouldn't get to see that often. But like to be able to, it just blows my mind. And I thought of at least one of my favorite performances.
Okay, cool.
So it was the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Oh, dude, yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Wow.
I don't remember the year. I want to say it was like 2007 or 8 was the first year we did it. And it was, I did it with the Heartbeats. And I want to say there were maybe 16 of us or maybe 20. But we pulled a piece that we had done from our team show and did that for the live TV spot. So there's like a parade route. I can't remember if it's like a mile or a mile and a half maybe. And we do sort of a basic routine, something that looks nice in a large group. And then for the most part, all the performing groups, the dance groups and the marching bands, they would have like a 1-minute spot, for TV. So for that one, we did a routine that's called the Matrix. It's something that we, created for team shows. And yeah, it was so much fun. Just being in New York City, being part of that entire event was a ton of fun.
So this is actually on, it looks like Eddie's YouTube account.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, fun fact, I remember watching this, dude, because this was right around the time. So when jump rope was like getting all those spots on ESPN and, it was like, there was a lot of coverage like nationally. That's when I had started jump roping just by coincidence.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like I hit that sweet spot of, Macy's Day Parade and ESPN Nationals and the jump documentary and all of that. Like that's when that was like my first year or two.
Oh my God, that's amazing. All these like, I don't know, the opportunities of like, and I feel like more and more stuff is starting to happen now. But like that was kind of like a golden age of like, ESPN coverage and Macy's was going on pretty much every year. There's a lot of big stuff happening.
Oh, dude. And also we've talked about this before for sure, but I want to say it again. 2006, I think, was a Santa Monica workshop, the All-Star workshop with like the best of the best. You guys were all there. I knew none of you. And I remember Lee and Zev. Well, I watched Lee and Zev do Chinese wheel. And then I was like, that's really cool. And then I think Lee was like, hey, like, you want to do this? And I was like, sure. And so then Lee ended up teaching me wheel. I had no idea who this guy was.
You'd never done wheel?
Never done it before.
Uh-huh.
And he did the whole like swimming, like 1, 2, and then backwards 1, 2, that whole thing. And it's just so funny to think like, it was that.
Remember that trip? Yeah, I think that was one of the first like trips for the All-Star team. Was out to Santa Monica to promote the jump documentary.
So two questions. So was that 2006 or was that a different year?
That was probably 2006 because I think I was on the All-Star team from 2005 to 7 and then 7 to 9. So it was the first group, the first team. So probably 2006.
Okay, cool. And then can you explain the All-Star team?
The All-Star team was, it was created by Sean Hamilton, who's now the World Jump Rope and IJRU chairman. Created by him. He was like the youngest board member on USA Jump Rope at the time, and had this, idea of like, we've got all these amazing jumpers around the country. Let's bring them together and create an all-star team. He would actually be a great person to have on the podcast because he's going to be able to speak way more to that, the creation of the all-star team and everything. But anyways, it was, so they announced it at some point. I can't remember if it was just an email blast that went out or if they announced it at Nationals, but they said, we're going to have tryouts. Here's what we need you to do. You need to be able to do the group routine, which will teach you, the day of. You have to learn it the day of and then perform it. You have to do a singer up freestyle. We're going to grade you on your coaching ability. So there's a workshop, and then we have people, observing you as you're doing it. You had to be able to do some 3-wheel tricks, the MIG and the gig, or the gig and the mickle, the gig and the mickle.
Nice.
And all these different things. And there's like an interview, and it was like a really fun weekend, and just getting to, hang out with and meet all these different jumpers from around the country, like really amazing jumpers. And then they picked 16 or 20 people, I think 16 for the first one. And that was the first USA Jump Rope All-Star team. And we got to do some really cool stuff. We went to British Virgin Islands, the Bulldogs workshop with the Bouncing Bulldogs in North Carolina. there were a couple other things. I mean, the Virgin Islands was definitely the highlight for me, but yeah, so that was the All-Star team, and yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I remember seeing the promo video for that, like the original one.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, like the
dude,
Mhm.
Smash Mouth All-Star.
Wait, hold on,
Why
we might
was
be talking
that the
about a
song
different
that?
one. No, we're talking
Oh,
about a different
that could
one.
have been okay. That could have been the second one, but I know the first one was set to Smash Mouth All-Star, which
N-
just like why.
That's that. First of all, that's
Um,
amazing. But the one that I'm thinking of, it starts really slow, and it's like wind, like
uh-huh.
whoosh, like that one. I pulled it up here. It's gonna be also linked up
Is it
because
6 minutes long? Like way too long for a promo video?
6:49. It was
Oh
not
my.
long
Okay.
enough, dude. Like when I saw this the first time, I was like, I wish there was more of this.
True. Yeah.
So the funny
That's
thing too is watching this. It's like I think the quality is like 240p.
yeah. Oh, it's so
And
low quality.
yep, it's literally 240p. And this is the kind of video that I would download and watch.
Yeah.
And I would like look at these like, globs of pixels. Like, did he put his hand like under his knee, or like where did that go? Like I was like trying to
Right.
figure out like what actually happened. You
Yeah.
know? Yeah,
Dude, that's amazing that like again, just with the whole like YouTube thing and it's sort of being a new thing that somebody who because I'm sure you weren't the only person, like somebody who isn't necessarily going to all the workshops or competitions or like traveling, super far out can watch videos and learn and get really excited about it.
dude, it
Um,
was critical. Like absolutely
yeah.
critical. Like because like we were talking about, like when we, you and I, it sounds like had a similar path of both getting obsessed with jump rope, then putting in the work, and then learning a lot of
Hmm.
skills. You have to find more skills,
Yeah.
and like how do you do that? And it happens naturally with the team, but when you want more so much faster, it's like how do you get that? And it's through social, basically.
Yeah. And honestly, even just like this conversation is making me like I post stuff to my Instagram. I don't really do YouTube as much, but it's making me feel like I need to post more, and just everybody that's involved in the sport, just post more, because there are kids who are just starting out and adults who are just starting out who just need to see all the stuff that's possible with a rope.
We should
So
post
yeah,
more basic stuff,
I
you
know
know?
I need to.
Well, like,
Yeah,
but like me too. Like I haven't posted at the time we're recording this. I haven't posted in like a week and a half, 2 weeks.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's also just again just with social media, it's an opportunity to showcase it to the rest of the world, because you just never know who's going to see it. I mean, if you're putting out a video, you could have some like one person who sees it from some place in the world that does not have a team, does not have any other jumpers, and that lights a spark in them, and then that person ends up being a world champion or like one of the first members
Mhm.
of the Olympic team when we're in the Olympics. Like, so you just never know the reach and the impact that you can have. So keep posting those videos, post more, get them out there.
We touched on it a little bit, but workshop Saturdays,
Yeah.
because workshop Saturday is actually a very well-known term in jump rope.
Hmm.
Can you kind of dive into the history of what a workshop Saturday is and kind of how that's been influenced and adapted to today's, jump rope culture?
Yeah. So, I mean, the workshop Saturdays that I really remember, I want to say the first one that I was a part of was the Bouncing Bulldogs workshop in 2004 or 2005. And that was like a big deal to me because I think that was one of the first like big workshops outside of like, let's say Indiana or Michigan, which, are just a car ride away. I mean, still, very exciting for me to be able to go and do that. But I think this was the first one where I'm getting on a plane, I'm going to work with this team. And if you don't know, the Bouncing Bulldogs are like about as close to a dynasty team as possible. Like when you think of
Mm-hmm.
the Bouncing Bulldogs, I mean, this might, light a fire, but you think of Duke or UNC. I know there's a big history of the rivalry there, but like you think of like Coach K and, or the other team I think of is like the Spurs with Coach Greg Popovich. And just the fact that consistently these are teams that it almost doesn't matter the person that's going through. It's about the coach and the organization and the
Mm-hmm.
like the lessons and the way that they're structuring things. So you can almost, I feel like if you're a good coach and team manager and somebody who can motivate and inspire people, you can take somebody who otherwise, would not be that great, and you can sort of introduce your system of coaching and working with them and make them just amazing. So yeah, when you think of the Bulldogs, at least for me, I think of, a dynasty team, a team like the Spurs or I think it's Duke. That's Coach K. Anyways, so I went to that one, and Workshop Saturday so you go in, you get in usually like Thursday night. Friday is a full day of school shows, and you're just like 4 or 5 school shows, and you're in a bunch of routines. You're sweating a lot. If the shows don't go that well, then usually at the end of it, I don't know if I should say usually, but I remember at the end, if the school shows did not go that well, it was usually Sean would make the entire staff run through the show in an empty gym. Until it was good. Yeah, I remember. I don't know if that was Bulldogs or if that was Forbes Flyers Workshop, but we had one day of school shows on a Friday. The shows were not great. We might have had one that was okay. The rest were just like bad. Like we did not represent the sport very well. So we finished our 4th or 5th show. We go back to an empty gym and we ran that show. And I think whenever there was a miss, we'd go back to the beginning of the show.
Wow.
And eventually it started to turn around, and if people were missing a lot, it would just be, well, simplify. Like if you're missing on a trick, the audience doesn't really know what they're seeing. Like they don't know the difference maybe they'll notice the difference between a double and like a quintuple, because there's, you're jumping so much higher, but they're really not going to know the difference between a double, triple, quad, a toad versus inverse toad versus EB toad versus elephant. Like they all sort of start to look similar. So you're missing, you simplify. Anyway, so that was pretty intense. A whole bunch of shows. If they're not great, then you're running through them again to nobody. And then Workshop Saturday was always, Saturday morning you get up. Workshop usually starts around 8:30 or 9 o'clock, and you're just teaching all day. And it doesn't matter, how good you are or what, all, the things that you've done in the sport. Like nobody cares about that. They don't care about what you've won or the places you've gone. You are there to teach. And you are there to be a role model to young kids that are looking up to you. And so, a lot of the people that are at these camps, these are like, when you think of somebody like, Nick Woodard or Shane Windsor or Jeff, like these are like LeBron James of the sport. These are like Serena Williams. And when you're at that workshop, you are teaching, and it doesn't matter. It does not matter who you are, or what you've done. There's no room for any sort of ego. And there's been stuff in the past where people sort of have a big head about who they are, and they get called out for it. It's like, no, you are here to inspire the next generation of jumpers. We don't care about what you've done. You need to take the knowledge you have, because you've been given countless opportunities to learn and to travel and compete. And you're going to, spread that to the next generation. And that was always a big deal of like, it's like it's a responsibility. Like you're there and you owe it to the sport and to the next generation of jumpers to give everything you have.
Yeah, it doesn't matter the money. It doesn't matter the skill level. It doesn't matter the looks. None of that. It's, are you here for jump rope and for jump ropers? Or are you here for something else? And if you're here for something else, then the door is over there and we'll see you later,
Yeah. Anything you learn, if you keep that knowledge to yourself, and this goes outside of jump rope, but if you learn something and you keep it to yourself, that stays with you, and eventually that dies with you. So if you learn something, you need to teach. My motto lately has been, if you learn something, teach someone. So like, what good are you doing if you're just keeping all this knowledge to yourself? So, there have been, over the course of, at least my involvement in the sport, there's been 1 or 2 jumpers maybe who have like kind of been a little bit like they don't want to share the tricks. And I think we're almost at a point now where almost 0, maybe 1 jumper in total, would do that. But for the most part, it's like, we all want the same thing again. We all want the sport to grow. So the only way that happens is if you teach, you share everything you know. So yeah, Workshop Saturday is all about that. Just teaching as much as you can and helping spread the sport.
Yeah, man. So what are you currently doing with jump rope? Because I think that kind of segues in, when you're talking so much about coaching, that kind of applies to you a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, like jump rope is just like, I've always loved the teaching aspect of it. I love performing. I love competing. But it's always, for whatever reason, just teaching has always just felt so like the most like, home sort of place for me in jump rope. And so I moved out to LA maybe in 2011, and pretty much from the get-go, it was like, all right, how can I teach? I don't really know anybody out here. I knew, or I still know, Nigel and Kathy with Foothill Forest. So I connected with them and started coaching their team, and they were actually the first, jump rope group that I was working with, and I've been working with them ever since. And then just sort of built it very, very slowly, like brick by brick. One school here, and then like a nonprofit organization over here. But for a while, it was just the very first year, it was just Kathy's group, and I was making like per year, because I was only working with them, I was making like 700, 700 a month. And I was lucky enough to be living with some roommates, and so my rent was maybe 500, but I was very much so like pinching pennies. It was not glamorous at all. Honestly, a lot of like canned soup and like peanut butter and like just whatever was going to sustain me.
Dude, I've always had a lot of respect for you. Like, just because when I grew up, I was like, Mike Fry is like the bomb. Like, that guy is crazy, you know? And then now that we're talking, it's crazy. But the fact that you love the sport and you love what you do so much that you would be willing to like do that because it was it was still worth it for you, dude. Like, that massive respect, dud.
Thanks, man. It was just like what else? Like, I've heard other people say this about their chosen thing, like I feel like I've heard comics, talk about this, or like actors or musicians. Like, what else would you be doing? Like, you can't, like, for me, it's like I can't breathe if I'm not jumping. If I'm not doing something with jump rope jumping. If I'm not actually jumping, I need to be talking about it. If I'm not performing, I need to be teaching. If I'm not competing, I need to be, filming something. Like, I need to be doing something with jump rope.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because last year or two, I was at a different job. That's when I was living in Santa Barbara, and I didn't do much jump rope, like, ever. And just because of, you got other things going on, and, work stuff, and trying to have a social life, and, date and all that kind of thing. And so it just kind of fell by the wayside, and I was still working out, but I wasn't really jumping as much. I also hadn't worked with a team in a long time. And when you don't have a team around you, it can be very difficult to push yourself, And it's just funny that you say when you can't breathe without jump rope, because I remember coming back to jump rope and just integrating it in whichever way I possibly could, in the smallest way, like not trying to do crazy tricks, but just the foundations like you were talking about. And it felt like I was coming back home. I'm like, yeah. Oh yeah, like this, it's like a deep breath of like, yes, this is nice. I feel relaxed.
Yeah. And I think it's so important to like, just to like listen to yourself, like listen to your body, listen to what you feel like, you need. Because for a while I was actually, I was sort of at that, decision point of like, you either need to go all in on jump rope, or you need to get like a real job, like whatever that even means. Like, what's a real job? And I can't remember exactly what, pushed me towards jump rope, but I decided to go all in on jump rope. And that was just because I was listening to myself, and what felt right to me was a rope in my hand, was jumping, was teaching, like all these different things. And I'd be miserable. I'd be so unhappy. So I think, whatever level it is for you or for anybody listening, it could just be that you need to jump once a week and that does it for you. And that's great. Like, you got to listen to yourself. Or it could be that you need to jump every single day. But try to listen to yourself and be in tune with what you actually need, because it's really important just for your mental health. Sunny talked about that. I was listening to the first episode, and just what it can actually do for your state of mind is huge.
Man, like, I didn't even realize I needed to hear that, but I did. And like, that's super helpful. Like, even for me, like right now, like it's so true. Like, listen to yourself and like, yeah, how much do I need to jump? And I think obviously that applies to so many other things, but yeah, how much do you need to jump? What makes you happy? Do you need to be a world champion, or do you need to be able to do your TJ smoothly?
Yeah. And I think it can vary from week to week too. And that's okay. Like, it can be the same thing with your working out, outside of jump rope. Like, I'll get into habits where I'm running consistently every day or every other day, and then I'll go through a phase where I'm not. And I'm trying not to punish myself as much, or just, get as down on myself, because I think, again, it comes back to just listening to yourself. And, you may go through phases. It may feel like, okay, I'm jumping every single day and that feels right. And then I need to mix it in with other things.
I kind of want to jump in on this real quick because this comes up for me. I mean, honestly, multiple times a day, because there's a lot of things that I think about and that I would like to get done, whether that's jump rope or not. But for the sake of, this, it's jump rope. And so I think part of that, the not punishing yourself, you can restate that also and say, make a decision, make it clear and say it, and understand in a week, in a month, in 6 months, when you haven't done that thing, or when you come up to like that point where you start to punish yourself, you can look back and say, no, I decided to do this. And for me, that kind of takes the form in terms of like videos, right? Like I've done like those vlog videos, with Carly and Jimmy and you and Eddie and Venice and stuff. But about, I don't know, a month ago, it started to be that I started to have these ideas, right? Like, a podcast, or what if I could provide value and content on Instagram, or maybe through like blogs, or like different ways of giving back to the community. And it started to like, I want to do more vlogs and I want to do more video because I genuinely enjoy it. But in terms of time, and because I still do work a full-time job, so time and what's easiest for my schedule, I chose, okay, for the next however long, I'm not gonna put myself down for not putting out video content. Mm-hmm. But that's what the expectation of, okay, I will be putting out, these other things, right? Like the podcast.
Yeah.
But I think just defining it and saying, here's what I'm expecting of myself. And then if you don't meet that expectation, don't be mad, just review like, oh man, that was actually just too much,
Yeah.
Or it wasn't a priority in the first place.
Yeah. And and be open to the idea that like your goals and your focus may change. I mean, you could set a goal and at that moment that could feel like the goal that is what you want and that you're chasing, but that can change, week to week or even, day to day. And just kind of be open to that and be open to like a goal or, your focus shifting and morphing into something else, rather than just being so rigid. And then when it doesn't go the exact way you've planned, you beat yourself up.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, I like our conversations. We just like touch everything.
I know.
Like we go all over the place. So I think this is probably a solid place like to wrap up for this episode, just because we've touched so much. And now I think it's time for our final question, which is, what is jump rope to you?
I think Sonny already said this, but jump rope is everything. So that's number one. Can I give a second one?
Absolutely. Just keep going.
Yeah. I mean, first off, jump rope is everything. It really does. Like I was saying earlier, like it just feels right. It feels like home when I'm jumping, when I'm teaching, when I'm talking about jump rope, when I'm watching jump rope. It's very much just like the air that I breathe. But then in kind of a totally different direction, I think jump rope is like very much like on the cusp. We've talked about this a lot. It is like right there on the edge, about to fully just break through. And there's a lot of reasons for that and a lot of people that are doing amazing work to make that happen. And I think it's been building for a while, but I think, regardless of sort of how you feel about, different things in the sort of jump rope political landscape, I do think that with IJRU, I think that's a big move. I think that's a great move. And I think, again, regardless of how you fall on that, I think that's a big thing it's introducing the sport to a lot of new people. It's definitely some necessary steps towards Olympic recognition and getting the sport going in more countries. So that's really huge. I think with Instagram, especially in the past, like 2 or 3 years, you've got so many people that are posting stuff really consistently that are getting jump rope out there at all different levels, at all different, levels of interest. And I mean, you've got people from the competitive side that are posting a ton. You've got people like Rush Athletics and official jump rope dudes that are posting a ton. And, it's different angles and different approaches to jump rope and health and fitness. But it's undeniable that, these types of things that are happening are getting the sport a wider audience. I think you've been doing a ton. I think people like we talked about earlier, like Sonny and Chris Walker and all these people that are posting and sort of coming into it initially from a fitness background or maybe from a CrossFit, background, but that are really embracing the freestyle aspect of it and the kind of the history and origins of the sport of jump rope. A lot of big stuff. Oh shoot, I know there's more sort of major stuff that's been happening, but I'm blanking on it. But yeah, I mean, if you want to kind of piggyback on that, just I really feel like we're right there. Like big stuff has been happening for a while, but it just feels like something big is going to be happening soon. That could be wishful thinking, but I'm pretty optimistic.
Well, I mean, for me, it's pretty simple. When I was, 10, 12, 14, whatever, my thought process was, this is amazing. I love what I'm doing. I'll never make a dime, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I now work full time for jump rope. And the fact that exists, I mean, dude, that's not a fluke,
Yeah.
And we've also got a lot of other jump ropers making money, a living. I don't know if it's a living yet, but making like enough money to live a life off of jump rope. And that's huge,
Yeah, dude, I don't know if this is a quote, but if I feel like if the job that you want doesn't exist, you have to create it.
Oh,
so if it's not a quote, I just created that quote. I'm sure I did. I'm not going to take credit for that because I'm sure somebody else said it. But yeah, these jobs, it's crazy to think about. These jobs did not exist. Like, being a professional jump roper. I mean, you had people early on like Adrian and Kata, doing stuff with Cirque, Renee Bibo, Peter Nessler, kind of like the early people who are really like forging a path, coming from the competitive side of jump rope, but then venturing off into, school performances and Cirque du Soleil and things like that. And in a way kind of showing us that it's possible. And so to anyone, if you're jumping now and you want this, you want to do it professionally, it is absolutely possible. It's not easy. It's really, really hard. But if it's something that you want, you can absolutely do it. You gotta be creative, and you have to just, push for it. And there's definitely, there's now people who you can look to as examples. I'm still working on it. I'm definitely not there completely, but, yeah, it's, the world that you want is possible. You just got to make it.
There's two things that I'd like to add there. One is one of the biggest things that drives me is the fact that I've been fortunate enough to land in this position. And I feel like it's, part of my responsibility to give back as much as possible and give other people this opportunity or greater if I can,
Mm-hmm.
The second part of that is the job opportunities through like Cirque and like performances and stuff. I'm going to kind of go down a little bit of a different, hard left here. We've talked about this before. I love that people make, money off of doing that they're able to make a living. I do feel like that needs to be a little bit of a careful line, because I feel like putting that act in a circus, because things are so new, I wouldn't want it to get confused with a circus act rather than a sport.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's an amazing performance, and the people that are doing performances, it's a different, like what they do in a performance in a Cirque act is it's like its own style of jump rope. It's a performance, and it's genuinely amazing, and I have so much respect for what they do. I just want to make sure that there is also an understanding that, hey, this is a performance version. There is also an actual sport here.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that that speaks to just as many people as possible in as many different spaces and avenues. Like, so we've got people in Cirque, pushing that end. We've got people involved in CrossFit, involved in rope design, involved in PT work, involved in youth work and nonprofit work. Every element, every aspect. We've got doctors now who were competitive jump ropers, and some who still are. So yeah, I think the more places we can be, the better.
100%. Do you have any asks for the audience? Anything that you'd want them to do?
Ooh,
yeah,
boy.
We didn't plan this one. This is totally off the cuff. I'm just surprising you here because I felt like, hey, we're having a great conversation. Why not surprise Mike with a question he didn't know about?
Oh, geez.
Or if not, it's totally cool. We can add something in later in the show notes.
I'm sure I'm going to think of something later. I would say, just keep jumping, just, keep jumping, keep working on whatever you're working on now. Here's what I would ask. I would say for if you are a competitive jump roper and you're not currently, like you're pretty active on social media, but you're not currently really interacting with people outside of competitive jump rope, I would definitely suggest that, and that's sort of my ask, because it's a huge world out there, and right now competitive jump roping is still very small, and any opportunity we have to introduce people to that and to bring them into it, and a lot of you competitive jump ropers out there have spent a significant chunk of your life getting really good and really knowledgeable about this stuff, and so you have this knowledge, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying before about like if you know something, you need to teach somebody. So it's a great opportunity to meet people that are coming from different backgrounds and from different approaches to jump rope and approaches to fitness and health and wellness and all these things. So yeah, just reach out to somebody. If you see somebody, on, commenting on somebody's post and you're like, oh, I don't recognize this name, check out their page, just send them a message, say, hey, I just saw the video you posted. You got, 50 double unders in a row. That's amazing. Just reach out. And I think it starts to make the world feel a little bit less small. So that's my ask. You caught me off guard, but
yeah, that was good. And also, there's some cool shit out there that you don't know about, like Sonny's mace. Are you kidding me? Like, I never would have known about that.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I had no idea. Yeah, there's a lot of cool things, and that's the other thing. Is like, jump rope can be sort of insular because we're only jump roping, and there's a lot to jump rope, but there's a lot of other approaches and training methods and different things that we need to open our eyes to. So that's a good point.
Dude, I have really, really enjoyed this conversation.
Dude, it's every time. We need a part 2 and 3 and 4 and, whatever.
We're going to end up making like a sub podcast that's like just us. We've also talked about that many times, but
I'm down.
Man. Yeah. So am I. I think we'll probably kind of cut this one off there because we have put a lot of good stuff in here, and the show notes are going to be jam-packed with a whole bunch of good content that is back from the early days, and I'm pumped because I'm probably going to spend 3 or 4 hours just watching those videos over again, honestly. So I'm really excited. But yeah, dude, thank you so much for taking the time and being on, man. Like, we're going to talk again, but
yeah,
thanks, dude.
Anytime, honestly. Just call me out of the blue and just say, hey, I'm recording this conversation. I'm down for that.
I did that one time.
You did.
I did that.
Not expecting it. But yeah, awesome.
Yeah, man. All right,
Thanks,
dude.
Man.
We will talk to you next time.
Okay. All right. See ya.